Hello, children! Welcome to the fantabulous world of Extra Tug, full of educational and children-friendly content. That's definitely what this is, so come on in. It's only $4 a month, and it's a lot of fun perks. Chris, why would you put that on the screen? You're ruining it. You're ruining it for everybody. Teenagers. They've been terrorizing their parents since the dawn of time, long before their demographic was officially identified in the early 1940s. Being a teen is a complicated and messy time that makes a lot of adults uncomfortable and even scared, which is why some enterprising individuals believe they've figured out a profitable solution to hormone-fueled rebellion. And that solution is torture. Just torture the shit out of them, see what happens. Okay, so technically, they're not using the term torture. Instead, they sell concerned parents and foster care professionals on boot camps, wilderness therapy, and behavior modification programs. Now, this large network of underregulated camps is known as troubled teen industry, I believe. It's dark. But I mean, hey, we've all been teens. I've never met a teen who couldn't be designated as trouble. It's a bumpy ride. The hormones are going crazy. And as much as it freaks out adults, it's pretty much a rite of passage to sneak out of the house so you can, I don't know, hit a vape, sip a flavored vodka, or even fool around in the back of a car. When I was a teenager, there wasn't vapes. There was a thing called hookah pens. Chris, if you could find a picture of a hookah pen and put it on screen, it was pretty much like chalk dust you would breathe in and there was nicotine involved. I don't know what that was. I'm definitely gonna get cancer because of those things. However, for over half a century, these camps have committed atrocities against children to rid them of unwanted behavior. The tactics are intense, and obviously I'm not an expert here. I don't know a lot about laws, but looking at it, base knowledge, they go against the Geneva Convention. Straight up. I know that's a meme to say that. A lot of the shit seems to be going against that. So for being honest, torture camps are exactly what we should be calling these programs. And while it's true that some kids exhibit problematic behaviors that require extra supervision, nobody should be put through this hell. And you don't even have to do a lot to get into it. Today we're talking about this weird industry because it's not going to be that funny today. I feel like this is just something that a lot of people don't know about, and I'm using my platform, and I hate that term, but I just find this is super interesting and super and I want to talk about it, so here we go.
But first, let's do an ad!
My doctor has warned me that I am 3 fast food meals away from vaporizing into ash and being blown away by a gust of wind. But what am I supposed to do? I'm a terrible cook, I'm lazy as sin, and everyone knows that healthy food tastes gross and icky. But what if I told you that you could get chef-prepared meals, never frozen, delivered directly to your door and ready to eat within 2 minutes? You'd think I'd be a liar, and it would make everything else I said before this being a lie, which would make me a liar. And I'm a liar because Factor does exist. Factor makes healthy, delicious meals and sends them to you with a flexible subscription plan. They have over 100 plus rotating weekly options, from meals and salads to breakfast, shakes, literally everything you could want so you never get bored. And they're going ham with the protein this year. They're offering double the amount of seafood and protein options more than the previous year. And meals are designed with ingredient avoidance by default. No pork, fish, shellfish, mushrooms, or spicy ingredients, so you can enjoy flavor-first dishes without having to ignore things because you can't eat certain stuff. I've been doing Factor for a hot minute, and it's never done me wrong. Every single time I'm surprised that I'm eating healthy and delicious, and it takes no time. It's fantastic. You should buy it. So if you're interested, head to factor75.com and use code BIGTUGFB50 to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Once again, it's factor75.com, code BIGTUGFB50 to get 50% off your first box and 1 year of free breakfast, which is crazy. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. It's just hard to say. Factor. Yum yum, eat healthy, don't die. Factor. Regardless of how tame a troubled teenager's actions actually are, any of them can end up in one of these camps. All it takes is one concerned parent's fears and exploiting the shit out of them. Troubled teen camps often market themselves to adults as therapeutic programs that can treat nearly any problem. And a problem in this case has no clear definition. A problem could be literally anything that's freaking out a parent at that given time. In many cases, typical teen behavior like talking back, breaking rules, and exploring sex and sexuality can land them there big time. Oh, what's that? Your dad found you making out with your Harry Styles poster? To jail with you. If you're a boy, double jail. Dad doesn't like that. There's a fancy term for this called pathologizing, which it's very hard for me to say. I just took a lot of takes. There's a fancy term for this called pathologizing, which means treating normal behaviors as psychologically unusual or unhealthy and as something you can cure. So a mom who freaks out after they catch their 14-year-old smoking weed with their best friend in the basement at 2 in the morning, that happened to me, is now reassured by another adult that there is actually something wrong with their child. That part didn't happen to me. My mom just cried and I got better because I felt so bad about it. But that's the story that happens to a lot of these kids. In essence, they're manufacturing a problem and then they sell the solution as one of their programs. And the saddest part of all of this is that most of these kids just need to go to like a 6-month therapy session, and they'd probably be a lot better for it. If you look at the subreddits and read survivor accounts, you find countless stories of teens who were sent away to camps because they were just straight up literally depressed. Maybe because shit was going down at home or at school, or they literally had undiagnosed bipolar disorder. And these are things that so many of us have as adults. So why is it different when it's a teenager? It's insane how this could be used against a teen. Explain to me how the cure of depression is just doing a bunch of depressing things. That doesn't make sense. But impressionable parents aren't the only targets. Often these programs are sold to church leaders. Tucker's talking about the Christians again. I'm sorry, but they come up a lot in bad things. And also educators and healthcare providers. It's to the point that they've become so embedded in the framework of adolescent institutions that teens caught up in legal trouble are often presented with a choice between juvie or these rehab programs, which is not good. The government should not be suggesting you go to these things, but it's fitting considering that the entire idea for these camps came from the world of rehab, specifically Alcoholics Anonymous. We all know AA. It's so good and important. We all have that uncle with a chip, a coin or something, and he's doing good, and we all have that uncle who went to AA and is not doing great. In the late 50s, AA member Chuck Diedrich decided he could improve on the 12-step program. His bright idea? Use peer pressure through confrontational group sessions and physical violence to work through the 12 steps. Everything's better with authoritarianism. People will listen if you punch them. He created an influential community in California called Synanon, and rumors of their success led to copycat programs across the country. Now, what happened to Synanon? Or Synanon? I don't know how to pronounce it. Nothing good. It eventually became a gun-toting cult. But that's a whole different video. Legitimately, it's a whole other video that I would have to do, so I'm not going to talk about it right now. Even though a 1969 investigation found that these programs were no more effective at achieving sobriety than quitting cold turkey, the idea of tough love was spreading. There's something about violence that gets our little human rat brains thriving and pumping. Throbbing. The federal government even funded one of these programs called The Seed in the 1970s. The Seed was shut down after a congressional report called the Tough Love Program, similar to the highly refined brainwashing techniques employed by North Koreans in the early 1950s. So whoops! Oopsie daisy. Sorry, we got a little North Korean there for a second. But over half a century later, teen camps are still selling that sweet, sweet idea that they can rehabilitate by breaking people. Of course, they don't use the term breaking people in their pitch. They're a little bit more refined in that way. They suggest that breaking down a teen's resistance allows them to rebuild into a conforming, obedient individual. And even more dangerous is that these lessons in obedience are often tied to morality and spiritual or religious themes. So for some parents, all of a sudden their child isn't just an unruly troublemaker. These kids are at risk of losing their souls. You can't let them do that, which makes these camps look more like a terrifying necessity. Whether the program is a wilderness retreat or religious academy, the idea is always the same. These kids need a heavy dose of discipline to get straightened out. But data from several pinpoints show that these camps are not just ineffective, but in many cases, they absolutely backfire. It's just like disciplining a cat. They will do things to spite you every day. One study showed that scared straight style programs actually boosted the chance of reoffending by 60 to 70%. And as absurd as it is to send thousands of teens to these camps for just regular teenage rebellion, it might be an even worse place for a child who is having mental health or substance abuse issues. Because in an already fragile state, they are subjected to an absolute mindfuck every day. But let's take a step back. At this point, you're probably wondering how a parent would get one of these rebellious kids to even go to one of these programs in the first place. And the answer there is they don't. They don't get them to do it. Well, they do get them to do it, but they don't get their permission. The industry is notorious for using transport or quote escort services, which is not the fun version of that where you go to Vegas and you get a blow. Parents sign over legal guardianship to these escorts, so they are able to enter the teen's room and forcibly take them to a facility. Not only that, they want it to feel like a kidnapping. On the FAQ page for the site safeyouth.com, Jesus Christ, parents are actually advised not to tell their kids anything about it or give them any type of notice. Now, these kidnappings are sometimes unfortunately referred to as gooning, and this was way before that became another sex thing. But whatever you want to call it, they're basically legally kidnapping children. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. I know I'm always hyperbolic, but not here. These professional kidnappers show up in the middle of the night, threaten to use handcuffs or zip ties to restrain the teens, then throw them in a van and take them away, often across state lines. And while they may not always use restraints, they almost always physically carry the child, all while using language that is so chill, like we can do this the easy way or the hard way, you know, like a Batman villain, just to coerce the teen into giving up and getting in the van. Only a handful of states have any legislation related to legal kidnapping. Groups like the Association of Meditation and Transport Services insist they prohibit the use of restraints as a threat. But nothing is stopping these groups from sugarcoating or misrepresenting themselves. Julio Sandoval of Safe, Sound, Secure Youth Ministry Ministries, which once again, Jesus Christ, posted on his gooning site, and I'm gonna keep using that term because it's funny, and I gotta lightheart this video a little bit. My goal for your child is to start this transition with 100% honesty and integrity. He's doing the right thing. However, in 2022, Sandoval and a parent were indicted by a federal grand jury for allegedly handcuffing a teenager at a store in Fresno, California, and driving him, handcuffed the entire time, to a boarding school over 24 hours away in Missouri. But the only reason this was a legal issue is because the kid had a restraining order against the parent. That's the only way that they could bring this to court. This would all be normal if that wasn't the situation. Jesus Christ. Counselors immediately confiscate possessions, which is, I can't imagine you have any possessions on you when you got fucking taken from your bed, but whatever. This is the beginning of the assimilation process. One that strips any individuality away from the child while beginning to break down that pestery little will they got. That little freedom of life thing they have going for them. You don't even have initial contact with your parents. Instead, you're given a uniform and told to keep quiet. The camp now dictates any communication you have with the outside world. Letters and phone calls home are often used as a bargaining tool to keep the teens compliant, and it's usually all part of a bigger strategy that uses points or a level system to earn privileges and eventually your release. Remember when you're in kindergarten and they have that wall of like the red, green, and yellow cardboard, and they'd flip it if you were doing bad? Was I part of a cult? Does anyone remember that? Chris put up a picture of that. It's like that, but with your life. Now, there isn't one strict exact process that these camps use to rehab their prisoners. I mean teenagers. But after investigations and tons of accounts from survivors, there seems to be common techniques and approaches most use. One of the most consistent is earning privileges through good behavior. And these aren't particularly special privileges we're talking about, just basic ones, like calling your mom. Now, kids can often be punished by being withheld from talking to their parents for breaking such legitimate rules, such as no talking, no looking at other campers, no crossing their legs, we gotta have good access, and no looking at the ocean. That's a real one. That's a real one that we found. These rules can be completely arbitrary and at the whims of every so-called professional who runs this camp. And if they break any one of these rules, they have a risk of losing all privileges from the very beginning. Now, while these kids are micromanaged, they're also expected to work. We need labor. There's no such thing as a prisoner without labor in this country. Yes, I'm talking about forced manual labor, spending days doing landscaping, chopping wood, building fences, you name it. And they're doing it all for free. Well, sorry, not free. Their parents are paying the people thousands to make their children work for free. So someone's getting money. I don't know who. And I forgot to mention the cost of these things. Some of these programs cost between $500 and $600 a day. And the discipline doesn't end at the losing privileges or long days of manual labor. There are hundreds of stories of campers being restrained, physically punished, and thrown into solitary confinement. And folks, as bad as that sounds, this is about to get a lot darker. I told you this isn't a very funny one. Many kids in these camps are provided inadequate medical treatment to the point where their pre-existing conditions are completely ignored or used to shame them. And on top of that, there is insane psychological abuse. One survivor recalled that girls with eating disorders were forced to eat in front of boys without using their hands and without any utensils. You know, like a fucking bully in the 1950s would do to a fat kid, like eat piggy. What the f? Kids at the same camp were forced to roleplay as the abusive characters from their past physical and sexual traumas. And then there's the process of turning the campers against one another. As teens work their way through their programs, they're often taught to physically discipline the other kids around them. And if you're not a big book buff, I would suggest looking at Lord of the Flies in your local library and find out why this is a very bad idea. There is abuse and violence at every turn in these camps. Even group therapy sessions are often confrontational and shame-based, using a pseudo-therapeutic method called attack therapy. I don't even know. It's a total mind. I don't have time to break into that. But of course, with all this negligence and abuse flying around at these camps, kids can get really hurt or even die. We're talking about teen death now. I'm sorry. Here we are. Because of a lack of regulation, the exact death toll is pretty hard to determine. But advocacy groups have found that at least 350 teens have died in these camps. And many experts think that these numbers are greatly underestimated. Like, there are way more deaths than we're actually accounting for. Like in 2024, a 12-year-old died. A 12-year-old? 12 died of suffocation less than a day after being admitted to a wilderness camp in North Carolina. And the next year, at a camp run by the same company, 2 teenager girls took their own lives. And get this, that's not weird. Sadly, teens ending their own lives is a very common thing in this industry. Just scroll through the list of deaths on advocacy sites and you'll see countless examples. These are kids in need of help, professional help. Instead, they get roughed up by wannabe drill sergeants who got fucking rejected from the military. Like in the case of a teen at Lakeside Academy in 2020. He threw a sandwich and was violently tackled to the ground and restrained, and then he lost consciousness, had a fucking heart attack, and died 2 days later. And the guy who restrained him, well, he faced manslaughter charges, but he pleaded no contest and got nothing more than probation. People who run these programs seem to be getting away with murder. In 2016, a 17-year-old accused of stealing an iPad died after being put in a headlock at Philadelphia's Woodsworth Academy. And even though the medical examiners said it was a homicide, no one was charged, and the names of everyone involved were redacted from the law enforcement papers. I don't know how to say that, but no one got in trouble. Woodsworth did shut down after that, but the damage they inflicted on the community was already done. The Philadelphia Inquirer reported that in 10 years leading up to the homicide, there were 49 sex crimes reported at Woodsworth. With a track record of death and abuse, it's no wonder that kids trying to escape, but that's even more dangerous when they're trying to escape. At least 15 kids have died trying to escape wilderness camps, boarding schools, or other troubled teen facilities since 1980. But the one thing I can't get over, actually there's several things I can't get over, but the biggest one I can't get over in this entire troubled teen industry is just how easily any one of us could have gotten sent to one of these camps. It's shockingly easy to happen. If you rebel in a strict religious home, or if you're gay in a conservative community, if you have mental health issues, it could have happened to you. It could have happened to me. I was kind of fat. My dad didn't like that much. I was bad at sports. I was doing theater. God forbid I wasn't gay. I don't know why I wasn't. I just like vagina, but like, I was showing all the signs. Okay, now I'm starting to think that was bad because I just said I did musical theater, wasn't good at hockey, and was fat, and I said that's why I was gay. I also didn't talk to girls, and well, music theater is kind of gay. But I was into art. In Massachusetts, that means you're gay. I feel like I'm backpedaling here. I'm gonna move on. But it's a complicated mix of our failing healthcare and education systems with a dash of fundamentalist Christianity added in for that truly dark umami flavor. And like I said, some teens do need extra help. I'm not denying that. But this is obviously not helping. These organizations are literally killing kids. However, it's kind of hard to keep track of who to even be mad at. Many of these camps are run by shell organizations, which help the people who profit from them avoid getting in trouble themselves. For example, those kids who I mentioned earlier who died in North Carolina, they died at camps run by Wilderness Training and Consulting LLC. Now this is where things get a little confusing, but basically, Wilderness Training and Consulting LLC was part of another company called Family Help and Wellness, a larger organization that operated several different troubled teen LLCs. Oh, but that's not all. Family Help and Wellness is owned by a private equity firm called Trinity Hunt Partners. So all this abuse just becomes part of a major corporation's investment portfolio and hides behind a structure that makes it nearly impossible to hold literally anyone accountable. Even in our increasingly divided world, I would like to think that stopping the elite and their brainwashed henchmen from abusing teens is something we could all easily agree upon. But of course, it's not that easy. It's never that easy. There's always some dipshit out there. For example, in 2008, a congressional bill to regulate these camps died in committee, and in 2009, a similar bill passed the House but didn't pass the Senate. Congress also failed to enact bills in 2011 and 2013. Now, I don't know. This is gonna get very conspiratorial here. I'm gonna get put on my tinfoil hat. Maybe this has something to do with the fact that these companies make billions of dollars a year, and they could have something about lobbying. It's hard to track because this industry spans different types of camps, and it's tricky financially too. Some are nonprofits, some are for-profits, and others claim to be religious groups. But I think it's worth mentioning that between parents, insurance companies, and public funding, there's a lot of money to be made here by people who have powerful friends. But let's not all walk away being super sad because this video was supposed to be happy and funny and it's a big tug haha and it's actually really sad because there's a glimmer of hope. Many victims of this industry have started making waves in the media. There are tons of books, podcasts, and documentaries shedding light on the troubled teen industry. And these resources were amplified with activism by uber famous camp survivor Paris Hilton. So the good news is that more and more people are being aware of this extremely dangerous and abusive system, and that puts pressure on lawmakers. In fact, in 2024, Biden signed the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act. But the unfortunate reality of the fact is that it doesn't actually regulate anything that we would care about. I don't really know. More of a waving of I saw it flag than an actual doing something flag. Apparently, legislators want to collect more data on the industry before passing any laws. So instead, this act requires that every other year for the next decade, federal agencies conduct a comprehensive study of troubled teen facilities. So I guess the whole thing is that if these fucking companies step out of line, then the federal investigators will jot that down, and then maybe we'll have a law about it someday. It's actually not that great. It hardly seems like enough action where there are most likely abuses happening right now. It shouldn't be hard to ban forced transport or restraining or solitary confinement for teens just on hearing those words alone. So why not do the very bare minimum? I don't understand. Not only that, but there's already a pretty decent body of work showing how ineffective and abusive these facilities can be. Oh, and the literal body count. Dead kids. Ugh, that was a dark one, gang. And that's it. That's the end of the video. It's not like I'm gonna have a little wrap up. Sit with that. Call a congressman. I don't know. Do videos every Saturday and sometimes Wednesday. Like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things. Extra tuglets. If you like dark shit, if you like this video, Head over to Extra Tug. We talk about some messed up things all the time. You get your name at the end of the video and you get...
Hey folks, this is Chris speaking on Tucker's behalf. Not sure what happened. His mic just so happened to cut out here, but really, what more is there to say? Yeah, this was a tough one for all involved. So do with this information what you will, and we'll see you all in the next one.